Greg IP, Foolproof, Why Safety Can Be Dangerous and How Danger Makes Us Safe. Dive into the counterintuitive world of safety measures and their unexpected consequences in the book summary of Foolproof, Why Safety Can Be Dangerous and How Danger Makes Us Safe by Greg IP. This summary seeks to shed light on the fascinating interplay between safety regulations, risk-taking behavior, and the inherently dangerous domains of life that we encounter daily. From anti-lock brake systems, football helmets, financial crises, to nuclear power, discover how increased safety measures can ultimately lead to increased danger, while also highlighting valuable insights on striking a balance between risk and safety.
Unexpected risks of safety regulations. Sometimes, safety measures can unintentionally create increased danger. For instance, anti-lock brakes in cars, introduced in Germany in the late 1970s, led drivers to engage in riskier driving. This caused more rollovers and accidents, despite the expected decrease in fatal automobile crashes. A similar trend appeared in American football and ice hockey. Mandatory helmets resulted in fewer facial injuries but numerous spinal and concussion-related injuries. Players felt protected by their headgear, so they engaged in riskier behavior during games, such as using their helmets as battering rams. As a consequence, these safety regulations ended up causing more harm than good. The unintended consequences of safety. The introduction of safety measures in both the US and Europe, aimed at stabilizing their respective economies, ironically played a significant role in causing the financial crises of the late 2000s. The U.S. Federal Reserve's efforts in regulating banks led to the growth of shadow banking, which contributed to the 2007 to 2008 financial crisis. Similarly, the introduction of the euro in Europe to curtail currency-related issues created conditions that led to the 2009 European debt crisis. The U.S. Federal Reserve's efforts to regulate banks starting in the 1980s sought to stabilize the economy, but these measures contributed to the rise of shadow banking. Fed Chief Paul Volcker's actions unintentionally laid the groundwork for mortgage companies, investment funds, and other less regulated financial institutions to grow. By 2007, only 20% of U.S. household and business credit came from traditional banks, compared to 46% in 1979. The faulty belief that a more stable banking system lowered the chances of a crisis allowed risk-taking to soar, ultimately causing the 2008 financial crisis. A similar scenario unfolded in Europe with the introduction of the euro. The shared currency aimed to promote financial stability and prevent crises among member nations. However, this very stability would later set the stage for the 2009 European debt crisis. Before the euro's introduction, high inflation and speculative currency trading plagued the European nations. Adopting the euro eliminated these concerns, particularly for wealthier countries like Germany. The absence of devaluation risks allowed them to extend billions in loans to southern European countries. Despite the influx of borrowed funds, countries like Greece and Spain ignored their homegrown financial problems. This ignorance persisted until 2009 when the gravity of the situation became undeniable. As seen with both the U.S. Federal Reserve and the introduction of the euro, attempts to create stability and safety sometimes lead to unforeseen consequences, which can result in situations more perilous than those they sought to avoid. Unforeseen consequences of prevention. Preventive measures can sometimes lead to unexpected problems, even disasters. In attempts to reduce the impact of natural catastrophes, these measures might actually worsen future incidents. For instance, active forest management has made fires more severe since the practice of extinguishing smaller fires leads to increased dead foliage buildup, resulting in dangerous conditions. Building homes and accumulating wealth in disaster-prone areas can also significantly increase financial consequences. The Great Miami Hurricane of 1926, for example, cost $1 billion then, but a similar storm today could result in $188 billion in damages due to the increased population density. As we work to prevent disasters and their devastating effects, understanding the potential consequences of these prevention efforts will ensure better decision-making and smarter risk management. Embracing the unpredictable. Recognizing that systemic risks are an inherent part of life is crucial and, surprisingly, sometimes doing nothing is the best course of action. Comparing Thailand's barrier-free economy to India's tightly controlled one, researchers discovered that despite a financial crisis, Thailand's GDP per capita increased significantly more than India's. This suggests that allowing free-flowing foreign capital and low interest rates in developing economies can be beneficial, even if a crisis follows. Another example is nuclear power, which, although feared by many, is safer than coal or natural gas. By shifting away from nuclear power, countries ironically cause more harm through pollution and global warming. Thus, accepting the possibility of major disasters may ultimately result in better outcomes. Fear, a safety cushion. Contrary to popular belief, fear can be a catalyst for better safety measures in many aspects of life. It directs us to take extra precautions in seemingly dangerous activities, making them safer. For instance, the fear of flying has paved the way for a zero-tolerance policy in aviation, leading to increased safety measures and better risk management. Learning from catastrophic events such as the Exxon Valdez oil spill in 1989, companies have developed more comprehensive risk management systems, emphasizing a company-wide culture of safety and proactive problem-solving. Step into the realm of fear, and you might just discover an unlikely source of protection. While activities like nuclear power generation and air travel induce fear due to the devastating consequences of potential disasters, this feeling of dread can actually make them safer. Despite the irrationality of these fears, like how an average American is 1,330 times more likely to die in a traffic accident than an airplane crash, the precautions they trigger make a difference. Take air travel, for example. Fear of flying, present in 1/3 of American adults, has created a zero-tolerance policy for risks in aviation. This mindset contributed to the enactment of strict regulations against flying near volcanic eruptions, following the near disaster of British Airways Flight 9 in 1982. The eruption of Iceland's Eyjafjallajökull in 2010 offered a potent reminder, costing $4.7 billion in disruptions but causing no injuries, thanks to these guidelines. But what about when disasters do happen? They often give rise to innovative risk management systems. After the 1989 Exxon Valdez oil spill, the company implemented the Operations Integrity Management System, OMS, which fosters a culture of safety wherein every employee reports identified risks, no matter how trivial. This proactive approach proved its worth when a potentially catastrophic pressure problem was encountered during a deepwater drilling project in 2005. Thanks to OIMS and lessons learned from Valdez, ExxonMobil scrapped the $187 million venture to prevent history from repeating itself. In the end, perhaps there's some wisdom in embracing fear as a stepping stone towards greater safety and caution in our lives. Balancing risk and security. Striking the right balance between risk and security is essential in every aspect of life. A zero-tolerance approach for inherent dangers can be advantageous, as seen with Toronto-Dominion Bank eliminating risky trading practices, which saved the bank during the financial collapse. Creating a safe buffer of space is another effective strategy to mitigate risks, whether it comes to natural disasters, such as the Australian government's approach to fires, or in air travel through maintaining safe distances between aircraft. In a world filled with uncertainties, it's vital to find a balance between risk and security. Sometimes, completely avoiding high-risk activities proves more beneficial than attempting to make them safe. The zero-tolerance policy towards volcanic ash in air travel demonstrates this, as well as the measures taken by Toronto-Dominion Bank, TD, in 2005. While many banks were focused on buying stocks, bonds, and derivatives, TD's CEO recognized the risk and ceased trading in derivatives. This decision helped shield the bank and the Canadian banking sector from the damaging effects of the 2007 to 2008 financial collapse. Another crucial aspect of managing risk is considering space, particularly concerning natural disasters. An excellent example is the Australian government strategy for keeping a safe distance between houses and bushfire-prone areas. By maintaining this buffer zone, the government doesn't have to rely solely on frequent fire suppression methods, which can ultimately cause more harm. Similarly, appropriate spacing plays a significant role in aviation safety. Pilots maintain strict spatial measures between aircraft, keeping a minimum of 1,000 feet vertical and 3 miles lateral distance from other planes while cruising. This precautionary measure ensures that any turbulence encountered will not pose a risk of collision. Achieving the equilibrium between risk and security is key to avoiding catastrophes in numerous areas of life. A zero-tolerance approach to high-risk activities and mindful utilization of space can effectively reduce the possibility of potential disasters.
In conclusion, the book Foolproof delivers a thought-provoking exploration of safety measures and their unintended consequences. As demonstrated through examples of driving safety features, American football helmets, and the financial crisis of 2008, safety mechanisms can sometimes lead to increased danger as people take more risks, ultimately backfiring on the intended purpose. However, Greg IP emphasizes the need for a delicate balance between risk and safety. By acknowledging the complex relationship between safety features and risk-taking behavior, as well as recognizing the need for space and strategic use of zero-tolerance risk policies, we can aim to limit the dangerous consequences of efforts to create a safer world.